England has some of the world's most historic stadiums, and some of the strangest. Today, we're diving into the oddballs, the lopsided stands, the crooked roofs, the half-finished corners, and the grounds that look nothing like they should. Here are 20 stadiums with the most ridiculous architectural quirks in English football. Let's dive right in. 20. Priestfield Stadium. This is the classic case of a temporary fix that somehow becomes permanent. The away end, the Brian Moore Stand, is a giant scaffolding structure put up in 2004. It was supposed to stay for one season. 20 years later, it's still there, rattling in the wind. The steps bounce when fans jump, and in winter the breeze cuts right through you. 19. Recreation Ground. This stadium looks like someone merged a football stadium with a train station from 1910. The main stand is held up by a row of strange metal pillars that block half the sight lines. Sit behind one, and you'll spend 90 minutes leaning left and right just to find the ball. Built in 1927 and expanded over the decades, the place has a charming military feel. 18. Bloomfield Road. For an entire decade, Blackpool played with one end, the south stand, completely missing. TV cameras caught a lopsided bowl with one giant gap, like a tooth knocked out. When the south stand finally opened in 2010, right before their Premier League season, it completed the shape, but the place still feels mismatched. Two stands look modern, one looks tired, and the corners don't line up. 17. Adams Park. The stadium sits in a valley, and you can tell. One stand is built right up against a hillside, almost glued onto the earth. The whole ground has weird angles, narrow walkways, and a tight footprint because the land around it is boxed in by woodland. Expansion is almost impossible. Opened in 1990, this stadium was built on a budget, and it shows in the odd layout. 16. London Road. This stadium has one of the strangest away ends in the EFL, a metal terrace that feels like a shipping container turned into a stand. The steps bounce, the roof echoes every chant, and the whole structure shakes when Posh scores. This stadium goes back to 1913, but the current stands are a mix of old brickwork and newer bolt-on designs that never quite match. 15. Highbury Stadium. This is the perfect example of a modern club growing faster than its home. Fleetwood's rise through the leagues meant fast upgrades, which produced a ground where new, shiny stands sit next to old-school terraces from a different era. One side looks like a modern training ground, the other looks like a 1980s non-league throwback. Watching on TV, you'd swear two different stadiums were glued together. 14. Sincil Bank. This stadium always looks uneven. One stand sits much higher than the others, creating an unbalanced silhouette on the skyline. The corners don't match, the roofs are different lengths, and each stand seems built in a different decade. Opened in 1895, this place has been updated bit by bit, and the result is a stadium that looks like a starter pack, built in stages. 13. Field Mill. This stadium is one of the oldest football sites in the world, dating back to 1861. But its modern layout is strange. A towering main stand that dwarfs the other two sides, giving the stadium a lopsided, unfinished feel. When the club renovated in the early 2000s, plans changed midway, leaving the project asymmetrical. One huge stand, two undersized stands, and open corners. 12. Hewish Park. This stadium sits on open land, and it shows. The corners are completely empty, creating one of the strongest wind tunnels in English football. Stormy days turn crosses into comedy. Built in 1990 as a replacement for the legendary sloping pitch at the old Hewish ground, the new stadium was designed cheaply, with room for expansion that never came. 11. Gander Green Lane. This stadium still looks like the non-league ground it was for decades. Boxy stands, temporary seating, and an artificial turf-era layout mean the whole place feels bolted together on a tight budget. When Sutton got promoted to the EFL in 2021, they had to rip out the 3G pitch and rebuild parts of the ground. But the old structures remain: small, square stands, odd angles. 10. Moss Rose in Macclesfield. This stadium's capacity sits at roughly 5,000, and you'll notice immediately how one side resembles a giant bus shelter. Thin metal roof, pillars blocking half the view, and a stand that looks like it could be folded up. The tight lanes around the ground make it feel even smaller. Three sides old, one side very old, and all of them slightly mismatched. 9. Vicarage Road. The home of Watford's capacity is about 22,200, but every stand tells its own story. One from the 1980s, another from the early 2000s, another from the Pozo-era rebuilds. Nothing matches. The rooflines are jagged, like torn paper edges. From a drone view, it looks like four strangers were told to line up for a school photo. And yet it works. Watford fans swear each stand has its own personality. 8. Ewood Park. 3 of its stands are big, modern, and built during the Jack Walker era, when Blackburn was throwing their weight around in the Premier League. Capacity sits around 31,000, but the whole symmetry collapses thanks to the tiny Riverside stand. It's narrow, old-fashioned, and feels tucked in like a little row of houses next to 3 skyscrapers. Visiting supporters can't help noticing the imbalance. 7. Boundary Stadium. Curzon Ashton's Boundary Stadium in Greater Manchester is just shy of 4,000 seats, but the oddness hits you long before you enter. It has a blocky main stand, steep and sharp-edged, that looks more like a council leisure center than a football ground. The clean, squared-off exterior feels oddly modern, while the rest of the stadium feels like an afterthought. 6. The Proact Stadium. Also known as the SMH Group Stadium in Chesterfield, this is modern and tidy, but still has a strange flaw you can't unsee. Capacity is around 10,600, laid out in what should be a clean horseshoe around the pitch. But the north stand is much smaller, breaking the symmetry like a missing tooth. From the air, the stadium looks like it shrunk on one side in the wash. 5. Agborough Stadium. This home of the Kidderminster Harriers might be the most half-modern, half-prehistoric ground in the whole list. Capacity sits near 6,400, but the real talking point is the giant banking hill behind one side. The terrace looks carved straight out of the earth. It's steep, raw, and feels like a relic from the 1950s. The other sides look much fresher, especially after recent upgrades, creating a wild split personality. 4. Sixway Stadium. Located in Worcester, this stadium wasn't built for football at all. It's a rugby stadium first and foremost. Capacity is around 11,400, but the sightlines for football can be awkward. The pitch feels squeezed into a blueprint meant for different dimensions, and the stands are spaced in a way that suits rugby's flow more than football's. Therefore, you can always tell the stadium's bones weren't designed for the sport. 3. Kingsmeadow. Used by AFC Wimbledon for years and now home to Chelsea women. This is a ground where scale goes completely out of balance. Capacity sits around 4,850, but one stand is a huge, slab-like structure, while the other 3 are small, low, and modest. It looks like someone started building a 10,000-seater and then changed their mind halfway through. The contrast is visible from every angle. 2. The Shea. Located in Halifax is a shared space, hosting both FC Halifax Town and the Halifax Panthers Rugby League. Capacity is roughly 14,000, but what stands out is one side that looks like an unfinished multi-story car park. Concrete shells, exposed beams, no cover, just a bare structure that feels suspended in mid-build. The rest of the stadium is fairly tidy, but that one stand steals the show. 1. Victoria Park. Finally, Victoria Park in Hartlepool, home to a loyal crowd of about 7,800, is shaped by its quirks. The rink end is famously stubby, short roof, tight rows, pillars blocking views, and the overall shape just feels too small for the rest of the ground. The other stands don't match in height or style either, giving the stadium a patchwork feel. So that's the full tour. 20 English stadiums that prove football architecture isn't always tidy or logical. Some are lovable, some are baffling, and a few look held together by pure hope. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the ride, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and tell us which ground you think is the strangest of them all. See you in the next one.